But you think I return only to show I am better than you? Of course I do.
Finally, a somewhat positive character review. Hi, I'm Kitty Monk, and I'm here to talk to you about Disenchantment, or more specifically, the character of Queen Oona. Now, a lot of people wonder who the best character in Disenchantment is. Is it Derek? Is it Bean? Is it Zog? Is it Dagmar? No. And the answer might surprise you. In my opinion, I think the best character in Disenchantment is Oona.
What?
Now, Oona, it might seem like a bit of a weird choice to most of you, but if I'm being honest, Oona's probably my favorite character in the whole show. I think she's the best written character too. Before Oona, my favorite was probably Zog, since I love villains.
There is no way you're gonna convince me my daughter is a criminal.
And if he does have issues, there did seem to be a method to the madness at times. But the whole "he's gone mad" joke got really old really quick, and it got kind of annoying. Even if I will admit he did have a good moment with Bean. After Zog, my favorite was probably Lucy, but he has a lot of issues I'm going to discuss on Tuesday. It wasn't until Part 3 came out that Oona became my favorite character, for reasons that went beyond her design and her occasional quips. So let me explain what I like so much about Oona. I think we should start off with who Oona is. Oona starts the show off as Bean's stepmother. She's an amphibian princess from the kingdom of Dankmire, who married Zog so Dreamland can have a canal.
Va-va-voom.
You never do that for me.
If I had to explain Oona, she's a fish out of water. And that's just not me being punny, she's a literal fish out of water.
Oh, he thinks I am reptile?
But she is an amphibian, let's say.
Oh, I understand, darling. On my wedding day, I also had butterflies in stomach. I shouldn't have eaten so many.
She has a weird accent, she's different, and she could probably qualify as a real fish in human form.
Your husband will have tentacles.
Just to get this out of the way, a few people have said she's supposed to make fun of Melania Trump. I didn't really see it that way, and I try not to get political unless I have to, so let's just leave it at that. I do get where some people are coming from, but again, I'm just gonna leave it at that. Now, going into the show, you're probably expecting Oona to be this aloof, wicked stepmother. After all, she replaced Dagmar, she has a son, and that was something Dagmar couldn't even do. Or if you were like me, you probably expected her to be this young trophy wife around Bean's age. She'd be rude to Bean, and you know Zog only married her for one reason. But the show subverts that. If I could use any word that wasn't strange or aloof to describe Oona, it would probably be nice. Honestly, she's probably the nicest out of the whole cast, and considering Elfo, that is saying a lot. But the rest of Dreamland doesn't feel the same way, especially the family she married into. In a really relatable sense, Bean can't get over her mother's death, and she can't bond with Oona, and she doesn't really do that until way later. But Oona doesn't let this get in the way, and she tries to be a good stepmother to Bean whenever she can. Even if she knows Bean won't reciprocate. Like when she thinks Bean's possessed, or when she tries to give Bean a pep talk before the wedding.
I mentioned because it was difficult for me with the tentacles. I don't know. Just leave your eggs on the nightstand and get out of there.
It's kind of tragic to be Oona. Seriously. Everybody in Dreamland hates her, as either she's an amphibian or she's not Dagmar. Zog, well, I guess you can argue they have some kind of a friendship. He just married her to have another kid in a canal.
My perfect queen. Regal, kind, talk all good and stuff. Not like Reptilicus.
And since there's certain responsibilities to being a queen, she has to grin and bear it all. So much so that as a form of escapism, she turns to snake root. Let me just say, Oona is great for reasons that go beyond being a sadly tragic character. For one, Oona has a lot of really funny moments. And this was before she even got development.
It's true. I was class clown. It's joke. Or is.
Or it's because she has a stiff upper lip. Or because she's an amphibian. The writers always know the right quips to give her.
There's a cotton candy shop called They Want Their Hair Back.
My favorite Oona moment in season 1 is probably either the pep talk she gave Bean, or when Bean realizes Oona has a little helper.
Oh, does she have a friend like me?
Nope, she has no friends. She has nothing in her life except a drug that makes her happy.
For most of season 1, you probably think nothing of Oona, but around the end of season 1, she starts to develop a lot as a character, and this was one of the best things the show could have done. After Bean revives Dagmar, Zog all but ditches her for his old wife.
Queen Oona of Dreamland, meet Queen Dagmar.
Also of Dreamland.
Yeah, the marriage was arranged and loveless, but Zog just dumps her like a sack of hot potatoes. It's hard not to feel bad for her.
Please take my spot. I'll find another place to sit.
That's better.
Yeah, sure.
But this isn't the end for Oona. After somebody starts petrifying people at the castle, Oona gets suspicious of Dagmar.
Dagmar will pay. Dear Beanie will pay. They will all pay.
But again, it sucks to be Oona. Since nobody likes Oona, they start to point fingers at her. And we find out, yeah, of course it's not her, it's Dagmar, but nobody else knows that. Especially Bean.
You know what, Una? You're insane. Why don't you just get out of here?
Now, it would be really easy for Oona to just take Derek, escape the Dagmar, and be done with it, but she doesn't do that. It'd be easy for her to just abandon these people who don't like her, but that's not what a queen does. She tries to help Bean when Dagmar starts to sail away to Maru, but then Dagmar catches on and captures her, and she tries to throw her into the sea. Like a real MVP, Oona doesn't go down without a fight, and she steals the Eternity Pendant before she gets thrown in. It seems bleak, and you think they're gonna get rid of Oona, but remember, Oona is a sea creature. After escaping, she gets spotted by a pirate crew, who are run by none other than an elf named Levo. Levo is infamous among the elves because before Elfo, he was the only elf to escape Elfwood. But in the 8 years he's been at sea, he's never come out of his quarters, so this works out great for Oona. At the bottom of the sea, Oona realized she was stuck in a miserable situation, and she wants nothing more than to live her childhood dream of being a free warrior.
There is my simple girlhood dream of being greatest amphibian warrior. It is still here in Una's 3 hearts. Don't you have any girlhood dreams?
Now, if I did have to have a problem with Oona, I wish they showed Oona coming to that realization instead of just telling us she had a realization. Like, if we had a flashback to her like Digfire, or her marriage to Zog, or her life with Bean, then yeah. But what would you get a passionate speech? Again, it's told rather than shown. I think the writers sort of realized that mistake, since next season when Zog goes mad, as annoying as it becomes, they at least have the subplot of Zog going mad in the coffin instead of saying, he went mad, take our word for it. And it's one of my favorite plots of season 3. Maybe they didn't have enough time to give that kind of development to Oona, but it really would have helped her development and her character. But being a queen, it really helps Oona, since she's able to convince the pirates to raid a nearby ship, and she does something Levo couldn't do. She gets them to plunder and get rich, which gets her promoted to first mate.
Aren't you the crazy lizard queen of Dreamland?
I am crazy lizard queen of no land.
Now, again, it would have been super easy for Oona to just stand the high seas with the crew and forget about Dreamland, or sail back to Zinkmeyer. Nobody cares about her, her son's safe, that's it. But a true queen doesn't abandon her people, so she gets the pirate crew to set sail to Dreamland. When they get there, they're gonna do the damage that Dagmar did. Oona's commands are so effective, it gets Levo to leave his quarters. No pun intended. And again, I'm sorry if I'm gushing, but I love this development for Oona. When she returns, she strong-arms Zog, and she develops a lot of self-respect. Yeah, she came to help Dreamland, but she isn't going back to Zog willy-nilly.
Hello, Zog.
Hello, ungrateful weasel girl. I tried to love only to have her betray me.
You go, girl! I know you're gonna say maybe the show's cheating with Oona, but I don't think they are, at least this time. Oona found something she liked to do, and she developed confidence. And she isn't part of the royal court anymore, so why act like a boring, stiff queen? Besides, Oona's the only one who can revive Dreamland. I can totally buy her walking back there like she owns the place.
Thought you were living happily ever after with your queen.
Honestly, if Oona never returned, chances are Dreamland would have stayed a stony wasteland forever. When she gets back, she has one demand. Her and Zog get a divorce.
Divorce!
Again, you go, girl. Even when it comes to discussing her divorce with Derek, he takes it pretty well.
If you attack a ship of clowns, I grab one.
And because Levo wants to stay in Dreamland, Oona's now captain of her own crew. A proper pirate queen in her own right. Also, I just want to bring up, she asked Bean to come with her, and her and Zog departed on really good terms. Although, I think another problem with Oona is she doesn't really appear after that episode. I feel like part 2 should have shown more of her, since she's only really in 2 episodes. It was a great development for her, but it felt like a season's worth of development crammed into 1 episode. I'll be honest, I thought going into part 2, Dreamland wouldn't be back to normal until at least the end of the season, or at least the mid-season. I thought the struggle to reclaim Dreamland would have been more of a struggle, not a 1-episode problem. I like what we got, but I felt like they could have done more. Strange. Oona kind of reminds me of another maternal figure in Bean's life.
The mantle I gave you as a baby.
Why did you give me a mantle?
Look, I said I had to go.
But unlike Dagmar, who had the makings to be interesting, Oona is interesting. And she gets the development that honestly should have went to Dagmar. When the show gets those questions about Oona, they answer them, and they just don't make her vague because. Although again, I feel like they should have done more beyond her having divorced Zog and become a pirate queen. Like maybe she goes away with Levo or she bonds with Bean. I don't know. Yeah, her and Bean part on good terms again, and Bean realizes Oona was better than Dagmar, but that's about it. But kind of like before, I think the writers realized what they did because part 3 has Oona come back, and we get a lot of great moments with her and Bean. Even if I think season 3 has a lot of problems, it still improves on some aspects. Oona comes back for Derek's wedding, she helps Zog after he turns to madness, and unlike before, her and Bean actually bond this time, in a weird kind of way. They do snake root together, Oona comforts her, and she gives her advice. She becomes the maternal figure Bean needs. And even if Oona ends up leaving, I still love how her and Bean go on a high note. It's so wholesome, although...
Admit she took her drugs with her.
Now, another reason why I like Oona is her consistency. I think a problem with a lot of Disenchantment characters is they don't have consistent characters or developments. At times, they're whatever they need to be for the plot, or for a joke, which makes the episodes either a waste or a big cheat. I think a reason for this is the fact that creators are used to writing for sitcoms. And at times, Disenchantment doesn't really know if it wants to be a sitcom, or if it wants to have a plot, or if it wants to try and be both. With a sitcom, it's still annoying, but you can kind of get away with that. In Big Mouth, if Andrew suddenly becomes toxic, or everybody can see Maury and suddenly they can, it gets annoying, but you don't question it. Because usually either it's funny enough you don't mind you have to, or because it's not trying to be serious, you hold your disbelief. Disenchantment, because it wants to have a big story, you can't really get away with that. In story-driven shows, the characters have to be consistent because they're trying to be serious or realistic most of the time. It works better for the plot and for your audience, because they can latch onto a character they like more. Have you ever heard of this trope called depending on the writer, where a character changes slightly each episode depending on who's writing it? Like in some episodes of SpongeBob, Mr. Krabs is a father figure who just happens to like money, but then other episodes, he'll lie, cheat, and steal whoever to get money, even a penny.
But how could you trade SpongeBob for 62 cents?
You think I could have gotten more?
Well, think about that, but instead of it being every episode, it's every scene. Like each writer wrote a different scene. As a result, it gets kind of distracting how, say, Oddball switches from being a sexist pig to a vague dude to a sane guy, depending on what the writers want. Season 1, I loved his character. Now it feels like he's just whatever. I think the characters all have a lot of great ideas, but it's hard to root for them a lot of times, especially in a story-driven show, and especially when they have little development. Oona, she's probably the only character I can think of who has consistent character development and a consistent character. She's totally different from episode 1, compared to maybe episode 30. Even if the show cheats a little by introducing concepts for her when it's convenient, they still make sense for her character. Oona's suddenly acting happy and then miserable and aloof makes sense. The show has established she's trapped in her situation, and as a queen, you kinda have to flip your emotions like a switch. But whenever she's on screen, it doesn't feel like the writers are cheating with her the same way they are with, like, Alpha or Bean. But all these concepts they use, I can honestly see them happening with this character. Her being a pirate captain wanting to be free, again, we know she's miserable, and she's an amphibian, so she's basically made for the job. Compare that to, say, Oddball, who, again, suddenly becomes a flanderized racist sexist jerk because he was a villain all along, and not one we suddenly added last minute. Or Dagmar, who has a strong start but ends up becoming a wasted opportunity because the show doesn't know what to do with her beyond making her vague.
No. Too vague. Much too vague. Mummy's fault.
Because Oona's so consistent, it's easier to relate to her and like her and want her to succeed because you have a better grasp on what kind of character she is and what points the writers are trying to make. She's never it's a big cliche, and she's a great time when she's doing it. Oona, they have a great idea of what to do with her, and writers, keep on doing what you're doing. I expect great things from this character going forward. But what do you think of Oona? Is she your favorite character, or do you have another favorite? Who do you think the best character is? What other topics should I touch on? Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, and think about becoming a patron. A little help goes a long way. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below. I'm Kitty Monk, and thank you for watching. I will see you all on Tuesday.